living your weekend in better. But I'll try my best to finish as early as possible. What I want to first of all tell, like, this is not neuroanatomy to learn just neuroanatomy. This is the whole idea is to learn it so that when you are seeing a neurological patient, you can localize where the problem is. So the whole focus is not just because everything is there in the book. It's just about how you can use the knowledge to identify, to localize a neurological disorder, where exactly the problem is. So as you can see, to begin with, I want to start with the embryology, not in detail, but just to understand what are the parts of the brain in more basic detail. For example, as you all know, the brain develops from neural tube, and that's the tube. So basically it has got a cavity inside, and it's a closed tube in a way. So that's how it begins. So brain and spinal cord. But if you see subsequently, this tube divide it to make the brain is into three parts: prosencephalon, mesencephalon, or rhombencephalon. If you have to remember in our more colloquial term, it's the forebrain, midbrain, and hindbrain. So when it comes to forebrain, it will evolve to two parts, which is the telencephalon and diencephalon. Telencephalon gives rise to cerebral cortex and what we call the basal ganglia. So that's the main nucleus, the whole of the cerebral cortex, which include the frontal lobe, parietal lobe, occipital lobe, temporal lobe, insular cortex, and also basal ganglion. So that's the part telencephalon will include. So these are the parts along with the white matter which will constitute the cerebral cortex or telencephalon. And the next part is the diencephalon, where it will evolve thalamus, hypothalamus. We will see in the picture afterward. Optic stalk, or it gives rise to eye. So that's why eye is considered to be one of the part of the brain which we can see from outside. So literally it's the part of the brain that's the only part which we can see from outside. And also pituitary. So all these together, telencephalon and diencephalon, is considered together as the cerebral hemisphere. The next is mesencephalon, midbrain. It doesn't divide into, that's the midbrain, which is the connection between the cortex, cerebral cortex, and the other part of the brainstem. The hindbrain or rhombencephalon divide into two parts, is called the metencephalon and myelencephalon. Metencephalon will give rise to pons as well as cerebellum, not just the pons but also cerebellum, and myelencephalon will give rise to medulla oblongata. So these are the parts of the brain. So this is the what we call cerebral hemisphere. These superficial structures are the frontal lobe, parietal lobe, occipital lobe, temporal lobe, and deeper lobe which is hidden is the insular cortex. I'll show it afterward. And then we have got the diencephalic part, which is the thalamus, hypothalamus, optic stalk, and also it's not included there. It will be pineal gland and the habenular nucleus. So these are all part of the diencephalon. And the whole of the brain stem evolved from two parts, mesencephalon and rhombencephalon, which will give rise to midbrain, pons and cerebellum from metencephalon, and myelencephalon. So that's the key of the brain embryology. Next, you can see how initially it's a tube like this, and gradually it will fold itself to produce the form which we are more familiar with. That's how the cerebral hemisphere or the whole brain will look like. So that's the telencephalon. That's the what we call the cerebral hemisphere. Diencephalon is inside that, and then we have got the midbrain, pons, medulla, and cerebellum. So that will give rise to that's how when the baby is born, that's how the brain will look like. The last important thing So for each of the, because it was a tube, there is a cavity inside. For telencephalon, which include the cerebral cortex plus the basal ganglion, the cavity is the lateral ventricle. Okay, and I've got a model, I'll show it afterward, and I'll go through the ventricle as well because it's important to understand. The cavity for the diencephalon is the third ventricle. So all the diencephalic structures like thalamus, hypothalamus, all they are by the side of the third ventricle. And then the midbrain, where is the cerebral aqueduct. Now, when we will discuss the ventricular system, you will see that is a critical part in whole of this system, because CSF is produced from the lateral ventricle, third ventricle. They have to go through the cerebral aqueduct, come to the fourth ventricle, and then they come out in the cerebro subarachnoid space through foramen of Magendie and Luschka. Now, if, for example, if, because this is the narrowest part in the whole ventricular structure, this is the part which can get blocked, especially if there is a bleed in the ventricle. When the blood clot, this is the area which is most likely to get blocked. So if that area is blocked, what will happen? The CSF will still be produced, so you get obstructive hydrocephalus. So that's why it's very, very important. And beyond the cerebral aqueduct is the fourth ventricle, which is the cavity for both for rhombencephalon, so metencephalon and myelencephalon, which include the pons, medulla, and cerebellum. So that's, in short, is our embryology, what we need to do. Thank you.